right. Hello, Sooner Nation. We're going on right as OU's about to play Kentucky. It's probably good for a lot of people. Maybe you can take their minds off of it. But we thought if we're going to do that, we got to bring on a special guest. So we've known me and Steve's known Ryan family for a long time. Great people. So, and I couldn't say enough good stuff about the Spangler family. So we appreciate Ryan coming on here. And I know there's a bunch of Sooner Nation that misses the days when Ryan was playing down low for us. I can tell you that much. But, man, Ryan, we'll take it to you and see what you've been up to here lately.
Man, I'm in oil and gas. So I told my family that, they did that my whole life. And I told them when I'm done with basketball, I said, I'm not getting into oil and gas. And when I got back from Japan, I sat here for about 6 months and couldn't find a job that I wanted. And my dad said, I got one for you. And so it's about 7 years into oil and gas, and I'm stuck in it. And I've got 3 daughters that are playing basketball. Well, 2 of them are playing basketball and soccer, so I chase them around.
Well, Ryan, it's probably a smarter decision that you did. Your dad, and I've known your dad for a long time, and at least you didn't do the dumb coach AD stuff like your dad's still doing. I'm sure you're doing a lot better than like your dad and I still doing that stuff. So unlike
I get my fix. I get my fix. I help him on Friday nights. So I help him with quarterbacks. So I get enough, but I don't rely on it.
Good. No, like I said, we appreciate Ryan coming on. I texted his brother Rob, and asked Rob, I was like, hey, do you think Ryan would mind coming on? And Rob just said, hey, here's his number. I'm sure he would. So once again, Ryan, just thanks again for coming on with us. And before we get into the current state of OU basketball, let's just go down memory lane here a little bit. And, for those of you who don't know Ryan, Ryan was a Oklahoma high school kid. Where I first met Ryan was in the little town of Warner a long time ago, when we were going to church together back in the 1990s, late 90s, early 2000s, when Ryan's dad was a football coach there. And, Ryan was just a little guy, and, Rustin and
Chubby
Rob
guy.
were, yeah. And now he's the big guy. So came a long ways from there, but, great prep career at Bridge Creek. Just talk a little bit about your recruitment out of Bridge Creek. And I know that was at a time, like, were you recruited by, was Capel still at OU when you were finishing up and Kruger came like your senior year? Is that right? Or how did that go?
I didn't get recruited by OU at all. Capel was still there. Kruger's first year was actually my first year at Gonzaga.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So he came in as I was already graduating, but never got recruited by OU. Went to Gonzaga out of high school. My coach Giacoletti was leaving Gonzaga and going to, I believe, Drake, and I said, well, I need to get out of here. If your recruiting coach leaves, it's probably time to leave. And Kruger gave me the first day I got into the transfer portal. Kruger gave me a call and asked me to come on board, and never looked back from there.
Yeah, well, we're certainly glad that he did, and also understands another reason why Jeff Capel was no longer coaching, to have a guy who was, less than 30 minutes from the campus and didn't recruit him, but good luck at Pittsburgh, I guess. But let's talk just, I know this is an OU podcast, but kind of some interesting teammates when you were at Gonzaga, like Kelly Olynyk, I think, was on that team, right? Yep. And, a couple other, so kind of need a couple of NBA guys on that team. So that had to be kind of cool in practice, even though you're in the great hippie Northwest, that had to be pretty interesting practices there that year.
Yeah, very very eye-opening. When you go from a country kid to, like you said, the Northwest, that's a big enough change in itself. And then you get onto the court between the lines, and you've got 4 NBA players that you're going against as an 18-year-old. That'll open your eyes as well. But yeah, we had Kelly Olynyk, we had Rob Sacre, who played for the Lakers. We had Elias Harris that played for the Lakers, and then a couple guys that played 1 or 2 years in the NBA, and now they're overseas. So we had a squad.
So, you come to OU, go through the transfer portal business, which is totally different than it is now. Had to set out that year, but also that year you were setting out was kind of the freshman year of a lot of that core crew that came in. So just tell us a little bit about that freshman year, that year that you had to physically really redshirt.
Yeah, I wish, just going back a little bit and kind of where we are. Froze. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. It froze for a second. Let's see.
You hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Got me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, that year I set out, I wish they would continue to do that in the transfer portal. I wish you couldn't just continue to transfer. There's got to be something that makes you think about whether you want to transfer or not. And that year, having to sit out a year will make you think whether it's worth it to transfer or not. So I wish they would go back to that. But that year was monumental just for my growth as a person on and off the court, getting my body right, getting my skills right, as well as just being able to grow up, get used to the college lifestyle. And so that year was massive, especially for like Buddy and those guys who were thrown in as freshmen into the playing field, and they had to grow up pretty much breathing fire. And so that next year we came in, we were ready to roll. Yeah.
So talk us a little bit about, maybe some of the teammates, Buddy, obviously, Isaiah Cousins. I think Jordan Woodard came like a year later. Those first couple of teams, like Cam Clark, I think, was on those teams too. So just tell us a little bit about, a little bit, just what kind of talk that first year where it was kind of a big bump from the year before. I think you guys made the NCAA tournament, if I remember right, maybe lost was that the North Dakota State OT game or something like that, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah, I don't like that memory, but yeah.
Okay, let's delete it. We don't have to talk about it. It's okay. It's our podcast. So
no, that was we had Cam Clark, we had Tyler Neal, Sam Grooms, some of those guys, and that was our sophomore year, and so it was good for us as sophomores to get thrown into the mix. I wish Cam and them, we would have got them some more wins for that, but that sophomore year was monumental for our playing time and just getting ready for what our junior and senior years were about.
Go ahead.
Sorry, don't you feel? I'm glad you brought it up too, Ryan. I feel like there are too many guys. It's too easy right now to transfer, and like you said, it helps you grow. The days that your Final Four team, the days of that happening again, where a group of guys stay together, that's a dinosaur. It will never happen again, and that's how college basketball is. It sucks because as a fan, you can't get to know these guys because they're there for a year and they're gone. So That's why I think a lot of times as fans and what we're watching as OU is saying, well, yeah, we want to support them, but they're not giving us a good product. But also, too, these guys will be gone in a year anyways. So what's the point of going? So I'm glad you brought that up because I kind of feel the same way. It's let them sit out a year. You should have to sit out a year. There's got to be something that you have to look at and say, well, if I go here, I've got to sit a year. I can't play the game of basketball that I want to play. So,
well, it's the old expression, nothing that's good's easy.
You
want, good's on the other side of hard. And, you want to work at it. You want to bond and team chemistry. And that's just one of those things. Of all the human beings I've ever met in the sports world, Lon Kruger's super, super high on that. Just a great, great human being. And that whole staff, Coach Henson, Coach Hill, Coach Crutchfield, all those guys were just, that was when I was still coaching, I would always come to their team camps and it was just a family. It was just a family feel. You just want to touch a little bit about what it was like playing for Lon Kruger and that staff.
Yeah, I'll still say this to this day is that's the best human being I've ever met. And usually you can't say that about coaches, and nothing bad about coaches, but right, there's some days where you like them, some days you don't like them, depending on how that day's going. But there was not a day that I didn't like him. Even in the hard times, he was able to make it, spin it positively. And when I look at the background of all the different players I had as teammates, him being able to relate to each one of us, no matter what our background was, and just being a player's coach. Everybody loved to play for him. He was able to get you to succeed no matter what your skill set was, no matter how much playing time you had. And so, he's the best coach I ever played for.
Yeah, and I've told the story on this pod before, but just for Lon Kruger, the human being, my dad is an old basketball coach who when I was coaching, he was retired, but he would come and, watch my games, help me with this and that. And my dad had a heart attack and had to have open heart surgery. And Lon just comes up to me asking about my dad. How's Dick doing? And I mean, Dick Goss didn't mean anything to Lon Kruger as far as, he wasn't going to send him any recruits or anything like that, but that's just the kind of guy that Lon is. And so we all miss Lon. Obviously we miss the product on the floor, but we miss Lon. We miss Lon, the person. So just to
I'll tell you something funny about Coach Kruger. They always ask me when I talk to people, they go, well, how did he get the best out of you all? And I go, it was honestly like pissing your grandfather off if you did something bad. It wasn't that you were going to get yelled at or you were going to get in trouble. It was that like you're making an old man sad, and it's like that's how he got you to play the best.
Right? Yeah. No, it's like it's like sitting in the church. It's like the preacher's looking at you, so you can't do anything bad.
I tell my kids all the time. My parents used to always tell me, it's like, we're not mad at you. We're just very disappointed in you. And there's probably nothing worse you can hear from your parents is that you disappointed them. And that's probably how you felt too with Kruger.
Yeah.
So we're kind of up to your junior year, kind of took a big jump, Sweet 16 that year. Talk a little bit about, kind of the jump, even though record wasn't that much different in your junior year. From a fan's perspective, that team like really felt like it took like a big hop. Do you feel like that as a player that year was like a big jump into like nationally, okay, OU basketball's kind of back?
Yeah, I think, I gave credit to Cam Clark and those guys the year before. But when I look at our junior year, we knew it was guys that were going to be there even the following year. Mm-hmm. So we were able to build that chemistry. And when you think, when you think about Cam Clark and those guys, those guys were still Capel's guys. And so as much as I love Cam Clark, he was more of like, that one-on-one style basketball. And it didn't fully work with, what Buddy, Isaiah, and I did as far as chemistry. And so once our junior year hit and all of us were there with the same kind of goals, same kind of mindset, wanting to play together, that's when it kind of started to come to fruition.
So, Sweet 16 that year, then we have 2016 year, the Final Four year, one game that I remember watching and just absolutely, one of the greatest college games I ever saw, and you might know where I'm going to this, but that crazy freaking game at Fog Allen Fieldhouse where the voodoo still existed and all that. Just talk a little bit about maybe that game or just some other regular season games that year, kind of before the tournament that popped to mind.
I still give Buddy crap for that game because everybody, I go for like 26 and 18 that game, but nobody talks about it because he went 46. I'm like, come on, man, give me some credit. No,
I can't have one game, geez.
Yeah, we always said, and even Kruger would say, with 2 minutes left, if you want to pull it off at Fog Allen, you've got to be up 10 with 2 minutes left. There's something about the pressure of the fans, and I never blamed a game on a ref before, but they'll start calling.
You can at Kansas, it's fine, Ryan. Go ahead.
They'll start calling some shady stuff just to kind of make it a game, and so we're up 7 with a minute to go, and got a couple charges called, and the rest happened.
Yeah, cool. We'll leave it at questionable charges too.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we play at Kansas this year?
Yeah, yeah. Let's play with his team at this Kansas this year.
Yeah, there you go.
I know Ryan would make Hunter Dickinson cry because that dude cries like a stinking wine. That dude wears me out since he's been at Michigan. So I would love to see a real tough guy like Ryan actually guard him and him throw his palms up against somebody else. But just kind of the last thing we'll touch on your OU career, Ryan, is just kind of talk us a little bit about the NCAA tournament, what it felt like, making the Final Four, just kind of anything you want to delve into in that. Oh, I think he might have froze again here a little. Well,
let's see if he
I'll put it this. So for those of you listening at home, Ryan's froze right now, but we'll get him back here in just a second. I shocked him by saying that OU in the Final Four. So
no, while he's working through his stuff, like he was saying too about Kruger, that doesn't surprise me one bit. I mean, that guy's a complete player's coach. So when you watch him coach, it's just like.
Oh, and guys, I mean, like, listen to how Ryan has talked about playing for Lon Kruger. I mean, that's the ultimate respect. That's the ultimate, and this isn't a shot at Porter Moser, but this is just knowing what. And I think it's a great point that Ryan brought up about, having people sit out when they transfer. I mean, to me, the old system was good. If you went before, you had to sit out. Nope, Ryan's back. So, Ryan, we were just kind of queuing up, just kind of talk about that tournament run your senior year, kind of getting to the Final Four. Just kind of put a bow on that for us.
Yeah, what an amazing year. What an amazing cap to a group of young men and coaches that put a lot of hard work in. Best year of my life, besides having my kids and getting married. Just bringing everybody back that senior year, putting in the extra work, looking at how many hours we put in, and it finally coming in, and it's showing in the win column and how far we went. But just a fun year. And when I look back at that year, I even look at the coaching staff, I look at the support staff, and just everybody together had the same goal in mind, and we all worked together to meet that goal.
Yeah, well, just, and we've probably hit this enough, but just, once again, guys, it's a lot of the same people who've been playing together for 3 and 4 years. And, something else that's been a plague the Porter era is different assistant coaches every year under Porter. And, you probably didn't have that big a change that I can remember even in the assistant coaches, that you played for. Just the continuity of that stuff just breeds success. It just does.
Yeah, I've had this conversation. I had this conversation when this new staff came aboard, and at that point they cared about what I had to say, and so I gave them my opinion, and I said, hey, yes, OU is big, but it has a community feel. And they go, okay, what does that mean? I said, you have to have some Oklahoma guys on your staff. If you want community involved, if you want donors involved, it doesn't even have to be an assistant coach. It can be some type of support staff, but you have to have somebody that the people know in there. And didn't happen. And now we're having trouble with donors. We're having trouble with getting people in the stands. And so I'll still stand by it. You've got to have some Oklahoma guys in there.
Yeah. No, and that's a good transition. And I would think Ryan probably has done some podcasting the way he transitioned there, because the next thing we're going to talk about is the state of the program. So, I mean, I've said all along, like, all these podcasts, it's funny if you take me and Steve's first podcast as a football team and how we are now, we are doom and gloom. Let's just start over. But I think I take it back to, if I owned a restaurant and I served crap food for 3 years, I couldn't get aggravated because people didn't want to come to my restaurant the 4th year because I'm giving them the same crap that I've been giving them. And that's kind of what I feel with OU. Like, I get so mad at people on Twitter because they're like, look, fans aren't showing up, and want to blame losses on the fan base. I'm like, no, we watched that A&M, us blow an 18-point lead at A&M. We watched us get beat by LSU. We watched all these games just dwindle away. And what's going to happen in the selection show? They're going to go back to LSU. They're going to go back to A&M. All these games that could have gone a different way. And it's like, I think I've heard this before. So I don't know. I mean, what do you see, man? I mean, you've been there. So kind of a little more the ins and out inside the program. But what do you see that, like, I mean, what can we do different?
I think, I'm not around the program much, but from a bird's eye view, I feel like, there's something going on, when it comes to preseason and when it comes to non-conference, that we're just wearing guys out. I've had a couple guys that I'm really close to that have left the program. And that was the sentiment, is that by the time we get to January, our legs are burnt. We have nothing left. And you can see that once we get to conference, we're burnt up. And then also on top of that, I think there's always a scouting, I'm not seeing any changes. We continue to do the same thing over and over again. And then guess what? We'll probably, when Selection Sunday comes, we'll probably hear the same thing we've heard the last 3 years, is that we got screwed and we should have been in. No, don't lose to LSU and you might get in.
Yeah, no.
So, quit letting other people dictate whether you get in or not, and go get in yourself.
Yeah, take care of business. I said a long time ago, like before we got into conference play, I said I don't like to give my brother credit, but he has a good saying. He said, great teams win all their conference home games and split the road games, and that's a special season.
Yep. But
when you start dropping home games and you got to make them up on the road, well, in the SEC right now, it's historically one of the best conferences of all time. Hard to go win road games right now. So,
yep.
I don't see where our wins are, but everybody's so excited about that Mississippi State win, and I'm like, I'm scared to get too excited about it.
Yeah. But, Ryan, I think that's a really good point that you brought up of like burning people up in the preseason and that sort of thing. I mean, as an old coach, always talked about peaking at the right time. And, I think something the Thunder do a great job of is, and I hate the word load management, every good player wants to play. They never want to come out. They want to play. I'm 100% for that. I'm not for resting guys and all that sort of thing. But, the bigger goal, you want to play your best basketball in March, not in December. And the definition of insanity is not learning from your mistakes. We've had 3 straight really good Novembers and Decembers, but that doesn't get you to where you want to play in March. And I also want to touch on something Ryan said of the Porter Moser. I got it when they did it. That was kind of the hot name, but we also hired a Midwest guy with no ties to the state, no ties to the Dallas metro area, which you need to recruit as well, no ties to the South. And we didn't really bring in any assistant guys, even Shep got out, who was our, basketball ops guy. I mean, all that was changed. And I think there's just a disconnect. I just do. And this is, at least Moore did come back this season, but, it's been a different cast of characters every year. And that's just impossible to compete that way. Just from what you see, Ryan, I'm glad you brought this up too, but I also think part of being worse in conference kind of goes to the coaching, advanced scouting side of it too. I just don't feel like we do very well with second matchups of people. And I mean, as a former player, I mean, just kind of let some of our listeners know how important that is.
Yeah. And I even think, even halftime, you especially second game, but even halftime corrections, something's not where we have trouble scoring, and somehow we continue to run the same offense.
We run an offense?
Kind of.
Sorry. That was.
But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, it is. You get Beers at the top and let him go one-on-one. Maybe he can beat 3 guys at once. So that's kind of what it is.
And no open post. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah. I mean, I just think you've got to make changes in game. You got to make changes the second time you play them. I don't see any of that. And gosh, I love Oklahoma so much. I want them to be nothing but successful. It's very tough to watch right now.
It is.
Going back to your point earlier, you talked about on Twitter, people talking about not being in the stands. Well, I'm a testament to that. Is our freshman year, sophomore year, kind of good. People weren't coming, but winning takes care of that. Like, quit blaming it on the fans.
Yeah.
I promise you, if you start winning, that stadium will fill up.
Yeah.
And yeah, you may call that fair weather, but hey, as a fan nowadays that I am, I don't want to go watch a bad team.
No.
Well, and I mean, as Oklahoma, we're a hardworking blue-collar state, and we don't want to spend our hard work money that is for a product that doesn't meet the, something Brent Venables has all that doesn't meet the standard. It doesn't. And what's being put out there doesn't meet the standard. And
yeah, and all 3 of us love OU basketball. I mean, I follow, like, when me and Steve were at OU, Hollis, that's when the Hollis Price teams were there. I tell people this all the time. I probably had more fun at the basketball games than I did the football games. Now, that's probably blasphemy at OU, but that said, it's just like that place was packed. And the reason is winning cures everything. If you're winning, people will show up. But if you're losing, you're going to keep putting a crap product out there every year. I'm sorry, people are going to spend their hard-earned money coming to watch something that they've seen the last 3 years.
And Ryan, would you kind of touch on this? And, I know you were there for some of this, and there's even been some upgrades that have happened since then. But, we hear all the time from some of the media members about how awful the facilities are at OU. But the practice facilities, the training areas, all those things to me are pretty nice. It's just really the game experience that's kind of bad. I mean, but just kind of from your perspective, did you feel like as a student athlete, you were in a bad situation with any of those things when you were there?
No. The last thing I was worried about was a stadium.
Yeah.
Just give me a court. Let's go play.
Yeah.
And I never heard not one person on my team gripe about the court, gripe about the stadium, none of that. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, it would help. There's kids out there that want the nicest things and they want the nicest stadium, and they're going to pick a college based on that. As a coach, I probably don't want those kids anyways. Like, I don't want kids that want the nicest things. I want kids that are going to work. And so that doesn't affect me. Yeah, it would be nice for the fans. It would be nice for the student athletes, but as an excuse, no, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that, because that's kind of my impression on that too. So let's play a little hypotheticals here. Let's say OU does move on from Porter Moser. And I mean, I know you might have, more someone of importance is going to call you before they call Jeremy and I, but, what do you look for? You don't have to say a person. If you want to say a person, go ahead. But what qualities do you think Joe C should be looking for in our?
I think what he's saying is, how committed are you to oil and gas? Is there a way we can maybe get you back there? Yeah. I think that's what he meant to say. I mean, not trying to pressure you into anything, but
yeah, I've talked to a couple people. Coaching has changed as far as, it used to be 2 or 3 months of recruiting, actual going out, and the rest of the time being on the phone or emails. And now, you have to recruit all year long. It would have to be really worth it for me to stay away from my family that much. You know what I mean? I would, there's some ways I want to help the college just because I love it so much. I love the program so much. And I want to be a part of it one day. But I think, we've got to have, I think we have to have a seasoned coach that didn't just have a couple good years. We've got to have a seasoned coach that doesn't get caught up in the NIL stuff and looks more at character and kind of get back to what Kruger did. You go after those 2 or 3 stars that you see some potential and some upside in, that you don't have to worry about them just caring about money or doing that. Those 2 and 3 stars that want to work and are just happy to have a scholarship, they'll put in the work and I think that's what we have to get it back to.
And something I brought up on the last pod, Ryan, that I think you'll agree with, because this was you once. It bothers me, and I'm really glad we've got Dayton from Dale. I think that was a good kid for us to go get. But the lack of Oklahoma kids on our roster just wears me out too, and not getting the top level Oklahoma kids, because I mean, this OU meant more to you than it did, to other people. And that's just something I think's kind of been lost in the Porter Moser era. But don't you agree that, I'm not saying you go sign the top 5 kids in Oklahoma. Obviously, we don't have 5 high major D1 kids every year, but right. I kind of feel like the state puts out 2 or 3 every year, and us only having really 1 kid on the roster to me is unacceptable.
Yeah, I feel the same way you do. I would, if I was a coach, I would pull at least the top 2 every year. When you think about loyalty, you think about how hard they're going to work. You think about in the NIL that we're in right now, they're not going to leave you. They're going to stay to be close to family, friends, play for that name across the chest. And so, yeah, I would definitely pull at least the top 2 every year, and more if there was a number of them. Yeah. I think that's one thing I praise Venables for. The football team hasn't been fun to watch either, but the guy is pulling the Oklahoma kids, and he's making sure he's getting them. And I think that will pay off for him one day.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, Bob,
Jeremy and I are
won
still
with
kind of sunshine pumping Venables here. We're still
I love
on
him.
Venables.
I
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah.
I love him too.
I would
think
still take. I said I would still take a bullet for him. I might take 4 bullets before, but I'll take at least one now. So I promise you, like I love that man. I want like our buddies. We're in a group chat with our buddies, and they loathe that man. And I went for it with it for a little while, but I'm like, you know what? I remember how excited I was when he came here. So
well, Brett bleeds crimson and cream. And
yes,
that just means
that's
something.
what you
well,
want.
yeah, and I think that's a difference right now as you look at the dominoes on the football side versus basketball, and I think the wins will follow on football because they're doing the right things. They're connected with alumni, they're connected with donors, they're connected with Oklahoma kids. They're bringing back Oklahoma alumni to be part of the program in different capacities. And then you look at the basketball program, and donors aren't connected besides a few of them. I've got a lot of donors that I've been close to since I played, and they're not attached to the program anymore. Alumni aren't attached to the program, and so that's where the dominoes are starting to fall against OU basketball right now.
Well, I mean, it's a simple thing. I got a call to have really good seats tonight. I could be there right now. The game's about to tip off. And I was like, that's a 2-hour drive up and back. And like, that shouldn't have been a thought for me. That should have been, heck yes, I want to be there. But there's just, that's not the excitement level right now. And that's where we hope to get back to. But Ryan, Jeremy and I don't want to keep you on here too long, but Jeremy, have you got anything else?
No, man, I really appreciate you, Ryan. I know that Sooner Nation loves hearing about players, and it's funny because I think it was on Unofficial 40 the other day. Eddie or somebody said, man, can you imagine what Ryan Spangler looked like with this team? I think we just want a big man underneath. And me and Steve were joking around the other day. It's like, when's the last big man we had? I think we just want somebody to compete. And I love Sam Godwin, and we've mentioned this all the time. He's playing a role he was never meant to play at the University of Oklahoma. And I feel sorry for the kid. I really do, because he gets a lot of crap. And I can promise you, when he came to Oklahoma, he never thought, like, I'm going to have to log 30 minutes and be the primary big man for the University of Oklahoma going into the SEC. So that's another deal. So, but man,
what a great kid.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I hate hammering on that kid because, like, he's doing the best he can. Yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you right now, I'll take him and Dayton all day long, because you can tell the difference of how hard they play versus other kids on that team.
Well, I say it all the time. Good buddy of mine says you can coach a lot of things, but you don't have to coach effort. And you don't have to coach effort with those kids,
Yeah. It's like Dayton's our little spark plug. And anytime you bring him in, like Steve said the other day, he goes, I don't know if I want to start him because he's too good coming off the bench, because when you don't have that little spark plug going, it's hard to, implement that when he's already in the starting rotation. But no, man, I don't have anything else, Ryan. Man, I really appreciate you coming on, dude. It's fun going down memory lane and remembering when it once was great at the University of Oklahoma.
We'll get back there.
Hey, but it is kind of crazy. I was looking at some stuff before Ryan came on here, and I was thinking, Ryan probably played about 3 or 4 years ago. Then I'm like, crap, it's 2025, and that was 2016. And then I was looking at some pictures, and I'm like, man, the shorts were still really big back then, And so I was looking at some stuff before we got on, and my daughter looked at it. She's like, Dad, those shorts are big. And I'm like, that wasn't that long ago when Ryan was, when Ryan was playing. But, that just means that we're all getting older. And Ryan, say hi to your parents for me. And thanks again for coming on, buddy. I really appreciate it. And next time I see your brother, I'll give him a punch. Give him a punch for you too, and let him know.
Yeah, he's living over there now.
Yep. We crossed paths multiple times this basketball season. We're in some of the same tournaments and stuff, so I get to see Rob quite a bit, 2 or 3 times a year. So, like I said, Ryan, again, thanks for coming on, buddy. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, guys, if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Apple and Spotify. Ryan, thanks again, man.
Boomer.
Boomer Sooner.